Hey guys, KP Jacks. Today we are checking out Fort Caroline National Memorial. It is a national park here in Jacksonville, Florida. So we took a little stroll through Jacksonville, Florida. The Timucuan Reserve was actually established in 1988 and expanded in 1999, and it's currently ran by the National Park Service. It's about 46,000 acres, and it encompasses about 71 square miles or so like that. So the Timucuan were some of the first Indians that the Jean Ribault encountered in 1562 along what we call the St. Johns River. They used to live mostly on the rivers and coastline, and they used to build huts out of palms and vines, woven pines. But their tribes were devastated by all the diseases that the Europeans brought over because they had no defenses against them. And there are no known Timucuans left. None of the Native Americans recognize or identify as Timucuan. So the first permanent settlement for the area was back in 1564, and it was about 300 colonists, and that was about 200 soldiers and artisans included by the French. And they named the area La Carolina, or La Caroline, after the King of France at the time. And they barely survived their first year of being a colony. And actually, right after their first year, they were wiped out by the Spanish, who had actually taken up in St. Augustine, or down in that area. The area has actually been owned by several different nations at different times. It was first owned by the French, who founded the area. Then it was owned by the Spanish, who took it over from them. Then it was owned by the British, who took it from them. It was owned by the Spanish a little bit later again, and then eventually it was finally owned by the Americans. Now, this park is full of all kinds of animals and protected nature things, and there's a path where you can travel down to find a fort. There's a path where you can follow to get a nice overlook of the river. There's an area where you can actually see an old hut that is, made out of branches and palm leaves and woven together with local vines and things like that to represent what these people used to live in. There's also the actual fort itself, Fort Caroline, which is still in place. Obviously not to the massive extent that it was, but they do reenactments and things like that in their area. There's also a nice dock or pier fishing area that you can go to. There's several miles of hiking that you can do. They happen to have a pet club that you can join for the area, Bark for Life, so you can join that. You can walk down their pier and go sit on the water. You may want to kind of adjust your times of when you come. Sometimes low tide or high tide. They have different smells. Let's just put it that way. Now, many don't really know that it's the first settlement for the French here in the U.S. or in the Americas. Many of them were leaving their area. They were leaving France because they were being persecuted for their religion, their beliefs, and stuff like that, much like the English when we left and came to America. There's growing persecution for the Protestants, also called the Huguenots. And if you're in Jacksonville, many places are actually called Huguenot or Huguenot Park areas. We even found they have an old-style wood oven.
Cornbread, some fish fritters, maybe fried green bean or okra, some parsnips.
They take the cartridge in their teeth, tear the end off, pour a small charge of powder into the pan. Pour the powder down the barrel. Now usually this would be followed by the wadding or the ball and then the wadding. And the wadding helped hold the ball in place. When you were ready, you had your weapon at present arms. There, you were told, make the weapon ready. Hold it back to the full cock position.
comes up with the idea, why don't we give each person a little cannon? Okay? This is like the flintlock, a smooth bore weapon, but the ignition system is totally different. What I would do, and I'm gonna just go through the process. Down there and taste that old nasty powder. I fill up my pan and then charge the weapon. Put a little piece of wadding in there to make a nice tight seal. Now this, unlike that, this is called a scouring stick. For some reason they hadn't figured out the name ramrod in the early 1500s. Pack it in there nice and tight. Return the rammer. Now's where it gets tricky. I have to set the match. And this match
What?
now I'm going to try the match to make sure it's going to hit the pan where I want it to. And usually this takes a couple of tries. And actually this one's going to go right off the way I want it to. So, open pan, and I like to tap this to make sure that the powder is nice and distributed. I have good friends. Okay,
Cover your ears.
Some would say funny.
and we just had a flash in the pan.
Some morning full of rain. Find those crazy old friends of mine gone. We used to ride on thunder, and now most of us have passed. Yeah, the rest of us who hung around are still riding way too fast. There's scars enough to hide the tears and stories enough to last for those good old crazy friends of mine. Oh, crazy friends I met on bridges, the same bridges crazy burned down. Oh, crazy friends are like a gold mine, but a gold mine is typically
Worm. Upper vent. Sponge. Advanced charge. Load. Ram. Pick and prime. Make ready. Cover your ears. Fire. Worm. Wow.
All right, well, we're done here at the Timucuan Preserve. We learned about a couple of guns. And what else did we learn about?
Canon.
Cannons. And you became a junior ranger. We had to learn a whole bunch of stuff about the Timucuan and why it's here and how we got it and who used to own it between the French and the Spanish and the British and finally the Americans who bought it. All in all, a fun day. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the Timucuan Preserve.